Hey everyone, I'm John Reams, exercise physiologist here at NCHPAD, the National Center on Health, Physical Activity, and Disability. Today, as part of our Power Chair series, we are going to bring you a core-focused workout. I'm fortunate to have two friends here with me today doing the workout, Zach and McCartney. They're going to share their impressions of the exercises as well as their lived experience. You guys introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Zach Woolley. I am a power chair user and I have cerebral palsy, and I am an America Vista as well as working part-time with NCHPAD.
Hi, my name is McCartney Hagar. I am a medical sociology student at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, as well as an intern at the Lakeshore Foundation, and I have arthrogryposis and use a power chair.
So what are the muscles of our core? We hear so much about the importance of our core, about doing exercises that help to improve the functionality of the muscles of our core. The muscles of our core are muscles that attach to our spine, our ribs, and our pelvis, or you can think about that as our hip bones. So knowing that opens up a really vast array of options for movements that you can engage in to target some of the muscles of our core. The muscles of our core influence breathing, bladder control, bowel control, and balance, 4 B's. We're going to start with practicing breathing. So I'm going to encourage everybody first to try and lock the muscles around your ribs down. One way to think about this is if you try to pull your arms into your body, try to engage the other muscles around your rib cage to hold your rib cage in place, and then let's slowly begin to inhale through our nose and exhale through our mouth. Specifically, exhaling through pursed lips, as if you've got a straw in your mouth. So let's inhale through our nose, ribs down, exhale through our mouth, pursed lips. Let's keep doing that. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through our mouth. We're engaging some of the muscles of our core without moving at all. We're doing this by breathing. We all breathe. We can do this at any point in the day, whenever we have an opportunity, whenever we want to engage in it. The importance is recognizing that this is an incredibly accessible method of trying to improve the responsiveness and the strength of the muscles of your core, or some of the muscles of your core. As you're inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth, I hope you're still doing that with me. I can't do it and talk. So I'm going to ask you guys to keep doing it while I'm talking. As you're doing this, begin to pay attention to whether or not your chest is rising and falling as you inhale and exhale. So inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Trying to keep arms pinned in against your body, trying to keep ribs locked down as we inhale and exhale. If you find that your chest is rising and falling as you do this, begin to focus more on keeping that rise and fall of your chest limited, and instead expand your belly as you inhale through your nose, as if you're trying to pull the air downward into your belly, almost as if your belly were a balloon. And as we inhale through our nose, that balloon expands, or our belly button moves forward and away from the rest of our body. And then when we exhale through our mouths, really try to contract that area around your belly button. Try to pull your belly button back or in and down when you exhale through your mouth. I'm going to keep trying this with you now. We're going to inhale through the nose and expand our belly like it's a balloon filling with air. We're going to exhale through the mouth and contract or tighten the muscles around our belly button, as if we were pushing air back out of that balloon. So I'm going to do this myself I'm going to ask my friends here some of the things that they're experiencing as we engage in this. How about you, Zach? Are you feeling any of the muscles deeper in your core, closer to your midsection engage when you're breathing now?
Yeah, I would say in the area of right where you think your abs would be. When I breathe in deep, I kind of feel my ab muscles kind of pull back in me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, McCartney?
I feel my chest at the top contracting to try and keep the air going down, like you said. And when I'm inhaling, I also feel my abs contracting to kind of push that air back up.
Yeah, great. So we're trying to inhale through the nose and allow the belly to expand, or expand the belly actively like a balloon filling with air, and exhale through the mouth, trying to pull that belly button down and in, or back and in, as if we're trying to push the air out of that balloon on the exhale through our mouth. Let's move downward through some more of the muscles that comprise our core. Specifically, we're going to move down to the pelvic floor. As I'm talking, you guys please continue with those breathing practices. You guys out there in YouTube land, continue with those breathing practices. We're going to perform a series of Kegel exercises. Kegels engage the muscles of our pelvic floor. These are the muscles that form sort of a support or a sling between our hip bones. These are muscles that not only help to support our organs, our internal organs, they also have a lot of impact on our bowel function, our bladder function. They also influence our posture and balance because they help to coordinate the muscles of our back with the muscles of our abdominals while we are breathing. That sounds like a lot. To perform a Kegel, you want to try to focus on feeling these muscles contract between the space below your belly button and above your thighs. One way to think about this is if we think in terms of a triangle, where the belly button is the top point of the triangle, and the two lower points of the triangle are your hip bones. I like to think about this as when I inhale through my nose, I'm relaxing the muscles between my hip bones and allowing my hip bones to open up a little bit or to rotate externally. This actually happens when we inhale. Our hip bones externally rotate. And then when we exhale through our mouth, I'm trying to think about engaging the muscles that are in that triangle we talked about, or between my hip bones, in effort to actively pull my hip bones towards each other or internally rotate my hip bones. So again, we're doing all this without any movement. So incredibly accessible. Now, I will say, if you wear and are wearing a urinary catheter, do not perform these Kegel exercises. It can lead to a lot of complications with that urinary catheter. But if you have an alternative style of catheter, absolutely explore these. In just a minute, I'm going to let Zach share with you some lived experience about an alternative style of catheter. But before we do that, let's all get into the practice for a couple of breaths of inhaling through the nose and allowing hip bones to rotate outward or move away from each other, and then exhaling through the mouth and trying to tighten the muscles below our belly button. So, what's your experience with this, Zach?
I have something called a suprapubic catheter, which means instead of the catheter going through the penile tract, it goes directly into my belly and attaches to the bladder through the belly. Now, when I do these exercises, it does not bother my catheter, but that's just me. So it doesn't mean it won't affect you. So what I always say is, number one, it's your body. Make sure you listen to it.
Yeah, excellent. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. So The idea of hip bones moving away from each other, hip bones being pulled back together, let's keep doing this. We're still trying to engage in the Kegel activities while I'm talking to you. But maybe that's not real world enough for some of us to tap into what we're trying to experience when we do these Kegel exercises. Here's 3 other options. Replicate the sensation that you have when you're trying to stop yourself from urinating midstream. That's a Kegel. You could also replicate the sense that you experience when you're trying to keep yourself from passing gas. That's real world, because I feel like we've all been in situations where we felt like it was in our best interest to avoid passing gas. You ever felt like that, McCartney?
Yes, yes.
I think we all have. A third option could be to visualize the idea of when you inhale, imagine a metal claw dropping down, and then when you exhale through your mouth, imagine that claw closing and trying to pull your genitalia back upward and into your body. Just options. That's not very real world either, but it paints a pretty apparent visual for us. So, Kegels, great abdominal exercises. If the Kegels aren't appropriate for you, hopefully you're continuing to do the breathing with the ribs pulled down and arms into your body, expanding your belly on the inhale, contracting your belly on the exhale. Last thing we're going to do is going to involve some movement. This is going to be variations on planking style exercises. Planking style exercises are where we get into positions, or we put our body into positions where we can engage multiple muscle groups in effort to present a rigidity or a stiffness in that position. And that's where the idea of planking comes from. Stiff like a board or a plank of wood. We're going to do this through the imagining of our body being positioned at the center of the face of a clock. We are seated, we're imagining ourselves seated at the position on the face of a clock where the 2 hands meet. So directly in front of us would be the 12 o'clock position. Directly to our right would be the 3 o'clock position. To our left would be 9 o'clock, and directly behind us would be 6 o'clock. So to engage in this planking style exercise, we're going to lean as far forward toward the 12 o'clock position as possible and try to hold it for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll return to the 12 o'clock position. Something to think about here. Really try to keep shoulders down, arms pinned into the body, and replicate that idea of stiffness, like a plank of wood. Let's explore the 3 o'clock position. So we're going to lean as far to the right, toward the 3 o'clock position as possible, trying to avoid dropping our shoulders, but instead really extending or keeping a long spine. And we'll come back to the 12 o'clock position. We'll do the same toward the 9 o'clock position. Same idea, try to avoid dropping the shoulders, try to keep the head up, really keeping that long spine in place. We'll go back to the 12 o'clock position. Let's explore some of the diagonal positions now. So between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock, we have 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Let's take our body diagonally, or our torso and our head and shoulders diagonally toward 1 o'clock. Try to hold that for a count of 5, and then back to the 12 o'clock position. Let's go toward the 2 o'clock position. Same manner now. Quick hold of 5, back to the 12 o'clock position. And what we would do is work our way around the entire face of the clock as much as possible. Let's think about where 4 o'clock might be. Back and to the right. So, as much of these ranges of motion as you have available to you. McCartney, how are you modifying this to fit your style of movement?
Well, one thing I'm doing when I lean forward, my hips tend to want to go with me, so I'm using my chair to plant my feet So that way I'm getting as much core movement as possible and not just leaning forward into the cushion.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Using that idea of like almost like screwing your feet or your heels into the surface that they're in contact with to really, and that's probably helping you to engage your pelvic floor too, I would think, because so many of those muscles are tied into the chain of movement.
When I was rehearsing for this, I actually put an ottoman in front of my chair and used that to plant my feet so I could get even more contact.
Yeah, wonderful ideas for modifications. For any of us that find that leaning forward, sideways, diagonally is not appropriate for us, Zach has a great adaptation that he engages in.
I only have head control with my neck, so I use my head and neck muscles to go to the areas of the position of the clock.
Yeah, and another option can be trying to imagine that your nose, your chest, and your belly button are connected and rotate as far as possible in each direction, right to left. Same idea, trying to keep your head as high as possible, your shoulders pulled down and back, and rotating side to side. Is that an option for you, Zach?
The only way as far out to the side I can go are my arms like this. My torso won't actually move without help.
When you shift your weight in those ways and you're talking about extending your arms, do you feel any additional activation in some of the muscles of your core?
More so in the bicep area itself. A little bit in the stomach area, but it's more so in the actual bicep because it doesn't get stretched a lot.
Yeah. What about the muscles behind your shoulders? If you try to pull your arms into your ribs like we talked about and keep those ribs down while you breathe.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that during the breathing, and when I'm moving the neck muscles like this, I can definitely feel it in the shoulders.
Yeah, great. So, options. You know, maybe they don't all work for all of us. Maybe they do. Explore as many different ranges of motion as you have available to you, but I encourage you guys, if we're trying to engage core musculature, do these things slowly and deliberately. We don't want to hurry through them because we've got to create that connection in whichever way works for each of us. We've got to create that connection between our mind and whatever these muscles that we're trying to target that attach to our spine, our ribs, and our pelvis. That's the goal, creating that mind-muscle connection. Do you guys want to share anything before we end? Experiences with maybe other core-focused exercises you found benefit in?
The only advice I would have is be open, because you don't know what's going to work for you until you experiment with it and try it and adapt it.
How about you, McCartney?
One thing I wanted to demonstrate here is if you want to get that holding the movement back here at, I guess would be 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. If you have one of these chairs where the back can come out of your way, you can use that so you have more room.
Yeah, so reclining your chair opens up some different ranges of motion for you.
Right.
Wonderful. Both of those, just fabulous lived experience ideas. Ways to modify this. Once you got the concept of what it feels like to engage those muscles through the breathing practices, and if you're doing the Kegel ideas or the Kegel movements, adapting them. You got the concept, so the methods are vast. The concept is relatively small, the methods are huge. If this video was meaningful or provided you with any meaningful content, please comment on the video, like the video, and subscribe to the NCHPAD YouTube channel.